Okay, so today we're going deep into Uzbekistan.
Ooh, Uzbekistan.
Yeah, and more specifically, we're going to be looking at their population.
Okay.
So where they live and the mix of people who live there.
That sounds fascinating.
Yeah, so I think whether people are, thinking about going there someday or maybe doing some business there or just curious about this, corner of the world,
Mm-hmm.
I think understanding the people can really make a place come alive. You know,
For sure, for sure.
we're basing this deep dive off of this overview video we found.
Oh, cool.
And one thing that I thought was just crazy is that Uzbekistan has a bigger population than Canada.
Wow, really?
Yeah, so there's like 36 million people in Uzbekistan.
That's a lot of people.
It is. So let's kind of break down where all these people are.
Okay.
So how is Uzbekistan kind of split up?
Well, you've got 12 different regions,
Okay.
and then you've got an autonomous republic,
Oh.
and then, of course, you've got the capital city, Tashkent.
Yeah.
And each of these areas has, like, a really different story in terms of population.
Like what, how, so,
So, for instance, Samarkand
okay.
is the most populated region
Okay.
with over 4 million people.
Wow.
But then on the other hand, you've got Navoy region, which only has a little over 1 million.
So it's a pretty big difference.
Huge, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm wondering what makes some regions more densely populated than others?
Yeah, me too.
Like, is it just because of the geography or?
Well, I think it's probably a bunch of things.
Right.
Like if you think about Samarkand, it's right on the Silk Road,
Right.
and it's been like this major cultural hub for centuries.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also got really fertile land and a big cultural draw.
So people want to be there, basically.
Exactly. Yeah, and then like on the other side, you've got Navoy, which is mostly known for its mining industry.
Okay.
So that might not be able to support as big of a population.
Right, right. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's really cool to think about, how these historical factors like the Silk Road still affect a region today.
Yeah, totally.
Like, I'm curious what traces of that we might see in Samarkand today.
Oh, for sure.
Like, is there a certain kind of food or architecture or even tradition that came from that time?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. You'll find it in everything from the architecture,
Okay.
like Registan Square, which has all these madrasas, which are Islamic schools.
Oh, cool.
And then even the cuisine, like plov, which is this rice dish with meat and spices,
Mm-hmm.
has all these different variations that came about because of Silk Road interactions.
Wow, that's incredible how you can kind of taste history in a way.
Yeah.
But okay, so we talked about these regions, but what about Tashkent City,
Oh, yeah.
the capital?
Yeah, Tashkent's a whole other story.
What do you mean?
Well, it's like this huge city
Wait.
with over 3 million people.
Wow.
Yeah, it's like the economic and cultural center of Uzbekistan,
Mhm.
and it attracts people from all over the country
Yeah.
because of like, job opportunities and just the excitement of city life.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, okay, we've talked about where people live.
Mhm.
Now let's get into like who these people are.
Okay.
Uzbekistan's known for its diversity.
Yes.
So what can you tell us about that?
So yeah, Uzbekistan is incredibly diverse, but the majority of the population is Uzbek.
Okay, how much of the population?
Around 84%.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah.
But then you've also got all these other groups, right?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Like who are some of the other notable groups?
So you've got Tajiks and Kazakhs and Russians and Karakalpaks.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, that 84% Uzbek population,
Mhm.
like how does that compare to other Central Asian countries?
Good question.
Are they also mostly one dominant group?
Yeah, actually, it's pretty common for Central Asian countries to have one main ethnic group.
Okay.
But the fact that there are all these other smaller groups, even if the numbers are smaller, it really reflects the region's super complicated history.
Right. Like what kind of historical events have kind of led to this mix?
Well, you've got the Silk Road that we talked about,
Yeah.
and then all these different empires that have come and gone, and then more recently the Soviet era.
Okay.
And all of those things have kind of contributed to people migrating around and cultures mixing.
So if I were to walk through like a bazaar in Tashkent,
Yeah.
like what languages might I hear?
Oh, man, you'd hear a ton of different languages. You'd
Yeah.
hear Uzbek, obviously,
Mm.
but then you'd also hear Russian and Tajik and maybe even some Uyghur.
Wow.
Yeah, and the bazaars are so cool. They're like these melting pots where
Wow.
you see all these different cultures represented in the textiles and the crafts and the food.
Oh, wow. So what kind of things would I see?
Well, you might see like hand-woven silk scarves
Okay.
with Uzbek patterns next to like Russian dolls or traditional Tajik embroidery.
Oh, wow. So it's a mix of everything.
Exactly. And then the food stalls are amazing.
Whoa, yeah. What kind of food?
Oh, man. You can find everything from Uzbek plov to lagman, which is this hearty noodle soup.
Mm.
And it all just shows how these different culinary traditions have come together.
It sounds incredible, like a feast for the senses.
Oh, for sure.
And it really like hits home how history and geography have shaped the people and the culture there.
Yeah, totally. And that's why it's so important to understand the population.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it gives you a much deeper understanding of Uzbekistan, like its
Right.
challenges and its richness and just how complex it is.
Yeah, it's been really cool looking at this, going beyond just the numbers and seeing how the people really make Uzbekistan what it is.
Sure.
But it's important to remember that this is just a starting point.
Right.
Each of those 36 million people has their own story.
Exactly.
So for anyone who's interested in Uzbekistan,
Yeah.
whether it's for business or travel or just because you're curious,
Mm-hmm.
this deep dive is a great place to start.
Definitely.
But to really understand it, you have to explore those individual stories.
I agree.
What are their hopes and struggles, and what does their daily life look like?
It makes you think.
Yeah, those are the questions that I think are really interesting.
Me too.
Yeah.
For sure.
All right, well, thanks for joining me on this deep dive into Uzbekistan.
Of course, anytime.
It's been a pleasure.
Likewise.
All right, and to all of our listeners out there, be sure to check out the next episode where we'll be doing another deep dive into a new topic.
Can't wait.
All right, see you then.
See ya. Bye.
Bye.